So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thank you very much for listening to this short video about blockchain value design. So here we are talking about building business cases for blockchain. Now, there are three reasons why building a business case for blockchain is a little different than building a business case for the types of technologies that we're used to. There are three things that are different, and this is why we call it a design. So the first thing that's different is we have this notion of an incentive model. An incentive model. So let's say we're building a blockchain in the automotive industry. So the process goes from assembly to distribution to usage and then ends up in scrap. So I start with my OEM that is distributing a new car. It's going to go via a series of ports and terminals using marine and road logistics service providers to get the car to the dealer, who'll be passing it on to the driver. He'll then be going through the life cycle of the car. As the car goes through fuel and charging, it goes through servicing, it goes through repair, etc. So this is a circle that's repeated. The car may be resold in the intervening, but eventually it's going to come out and be scrapped. And that's my end-to-end process. So let's say I'm looking at the process as we go from assembly to the dealer. So this is the distribution piece. And let's say I've got kind of three pain points. So first of all, cars can go missing. So believe it or not, cars can be end up at the wrong port. They can be stuck at a dockside somewhere and nobody knows where the cars are. Maybe the process is very manual, so there's a lot of paperwork and it's quite a costly process to get the cars from here to here. And let's say there's fraud, maybe VAT fraud and all sorts of different types of fraud. So I've got three kind of key problems. Now, if I'm putting in a blockchain, I'm going to be looking at my key members from here to here. So I've got my OEM, I've got my LSP, stroke ports and terminals, I've got my dealer. Now, each of these is going to be getting some benefits. Okay, so let's say the OEM gets lots of benefits. So the missing cars are reduced, the automation is reduced, the fraud is reduced. Let's say the dealers are getting lots of benefits, but maybe the ports actually only get a small benefit. Now, the OEM and the dealer can't get their benefits unless the port does a load of work. But if the port has no incentive, they're not going to do it. So we have to design a system to make sure that everybody gets a fair reward for participating, because these guys are doing work that are going to give these guys benefits. So maybe I have to give these guys a rebate or some incentive to get them to participate. So there's an element of design, to design the benefits model or the incentive model. The second thing that's different is what we call network effect. Network effect. So if I look at my distribution, maybe if I look at my ports, for example, maybe I've got 3 or 4 big ports in Europe. I've got maybe Rotterdam, I've got maybe Antwerp, I've got Zeebrugge, blah, 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 all the way down to maybe Felixstowe, for example. So maybe Rotterdam has got 10-20% of the market, Amsterdam is maybe 8%, Antwerp is maybe 8%, and then maybe a smaller port like Felixstowe is maybe 5%. Now, if I want to get Rotterdam or any of these ports to participate, then I need to have enough traffic going through their port to make it worth their while. So if I look at the OEMs, I'm going to have maybe VW, who maybe have 25% of the market. I'm going to have Peugeot Group, maybe have 10% of the market. I'm going to have Renault, maybe 10% of the market. Maybe Honda, 5% of the market. If I've only got Honda on my network, then that's not going to be very attractive for these ports. I really need to have I need to have really Renault and Peugeot and VW on my network. So at least I've got 50% or more of the market. Otherwise, these ports are not going to be very interested. Conversely, I probably need to have most of the ports on my network as well. So I need to have these players on board so that as I push more cars through the process, then all boats rise and everybody wins. But it's only going to happen if I get over a tipping point where I have enough traffic going through my network. I have enough ports on board, I have enough OEMs on board, I have enough LSPs on board to get over the tipping point where enough of the business is going through to make it interesting. The third thing that's different is I'm working at the level of a market. So I'm designing now my system at the level of the market, and maybe I'm looking at the European market. I'm probably looking at some segment of the market where I can get 100% or at least 50%, at least over the tipping point. Because if I can't recruit those members onto my blockchain, then it's not going to be that interesting and people are not going to want to participate, even if I have a fair incentive model. So I'm looking to define what are the benefits for maybe the OEM, for the LSP marine, for the ports, and bear in mind these benefits could be driven by an incentive. If maybe I have 100% of the market, or if maybe I'm over the tipping point, maybe I have 50% of the market. Because if I only have 5% of the market, the benefits are probably just so small that nobody's going to get out of bed for that. This is interesting, but that's the target. So I'm targeting that as the segment where I can get most of the business. And this is almost like the minimum viable ecosystem, the point where the model actually starts to work. And this might be my MVP. So if I'm looking at the progression, this might be an MVP where I'm just having a few players on the market. This might be my tipping point, and this might be my target. So the first exam question for a BVD to answer is, what is the market? So what is the market size? And do we have an understanding of the tipping point, and can we design a fair incentive model to make everybody wish to participate? So that then, in a nutshell, is what's different about building a business case for blockchain as opposed to any other technology.